Hello students, I am Arun Devkar, Assistant Professor, AAI SSMS College of Water Management and Catering Technology. Let us start with a new chapter on structure and functions of ecosystem. The objectives of this sessions are: the first objective, structures of ecosystem, functions of ecosystem that are physical, biological and biogeochemical processes. The second objectives of this chapter is concept of productivity, ecological pyramid. The third objectives of this chapter, type of ecosystem that are tundra, forest, grassland, desert, aquatic, importance and threats with relevant example from India. Fourth objectives for this chapter is ecosystem services, ecosystem preservation and conservation strategies, basics of ecosystem restoration. Ecosystem. Concept of an ecosystem. Living organism cannot live isolated from their non-living environment because they later provide materials and energy for the several of the former. For example, there is an interaction between a biotic community and its environment to produce a stable system, a natural self-sufficient unit which is known as an ecosystem. Ecosystems are the part of the nature where living organisms interact among themselves and with their physical environment. Structure and functions of ecosystem. There are two structures of ecosystem. Each ecosystem has two main components, abiotic, biotic. We are going to discuss abiotic components that are non-living organisms. The abiotic components can be grouped into following categories. A category, climate factors, which include rain, temperature, light, wind, humidity, etc. Epedic factors, which include soil, pH value, topography, minerals, etc. The main functions of important factors in abiotic components are given below. Soils are much more complex than simple sediments. They contain a mixture of weathered rock fragments, highly alternate soil minerals particles, organic matter and living organism. Soil provide nutrients, water, a home and a structural growing medium for an organism. The vegetation found growing on top of the soil is closely linked to these components of an ecosystem throughout nutrient cycling. The atmosphere provides organisms found within ecosystem with carbon dioxide for an photosynthesis and oxygen for respiration. The process of evaporation, transportation and perception cycle water between atmosphere and the earth surface. Now solar radiation is used in ecosystem to heat the atmosphere and to evaporate and temper water into the atmosphere. Sunlight is also necessary for photosynthesis, and photosynthesis provide the energy for plant growth and metabolism and the organic food for other form of life. Most living tissues is composed of a very high percentage of water, up to and even exceeding 90%. The very few cells can survive if their water content drop below 10%, and the most are killed if it is less than 30 to 50%. Water is the medium by which minerals, nutrients enter and are translocated in plants. It is also necessary for the maintenance of leaf and its requirement for an chemical reaction. Plants and animals receive their water from the earth and surface and soil. The original sources of this water is perception from the atmosphere. But now we are going to discuss the second component. It is called biotic components. The living organism include plants, animals and microorganisms like bacteria and fungi that are present in an ecosystem. From the abiotic component procedure, the green plants have lots of solar energy and change it into the chemical energy of using simple inorganic components. Newly water carbon dioxide. This process is as photosynthesis. As the green plants manufacture their own food, they are known as an autotrophs. Auto is equal to self and trophs is equal to feeder. The chemical energy stored by the producer is utilized partly by the producer for their own growth and survival, and the remaining is stored in the plant's parts for their future uses. Now we are going to discuss B, that is consumers. The animals lack of are unable to synthesize their own food, therefore they are dependent on the producer for their food. They are known as an heterotrophs. For example, hetero is equal to others, trophs are equal to feeders. The consumer are of four types, namely primary consumer or first order consumer. These are the animal which feeds on plants or the producer. They are called herbivores. Examples are rabbit, deer, goat and cattle. Now secondary consumers or second order consumer. The animal which feed on the herbivores are called the pre-primary carnivores. For example, cats, fox, snakes, etc. Territory consumer or third order consumer. These are the large carnivores which feed on the secondary consumer. Example are wolves. Quaternary consumers or fourth order consumers or omnivores. These are the largest carnivores which feed on the territory consumers and are not eaten up by the other animal. For examples are lions and tigers. Next one is C, decomposer or reducer. The bacteria and fungi belongs to this category. They break down the dead organic material of producer, for example plants, and consumer, for example animals, for their food, and release to the environment. The simple inorganic and organic substance produced as by the product of their metabolism. The example substance are reused by the producer, resulting in a cyclic exchange of material between the abiotic community and the abiotic environment of the ecosystem. The decomposer are known as septrotrophs. Sepros is equal to roten, tropos is equal to feeder. For example, in this process, the sun is included. Throughout the sun, solar energy is included. Plants pathogens are included. Herbivores are included. Atmosphere is included, and soil is included. Then we are going to discuss the functions of ecosystem. Ecosystems are complex dynamic system. They perform certain functions These are functions of ecosystem. The functions are as follows. First one, productivity. Second one is decomposition. Third one is physical, that is energy flow. Fourth one is biological, in food chain, food webs, ecological succession, and so on. Fifth one, biogeochemical, for example, nutrient cycling process. Now we're going to discuss the functions of ecosystem. That is, first one, product. A constant input of solar energy is the basic requirement for any ecosystem to function and sustain. Primary production is defined as the amount of biomass or organic matter produced per unit area over a time period by plants during their process. It is expressed in the terms of weight or energy. The rate of biomass production is called productivity. It is expressed in items of 2 years till 1 year. Compare the productivity of different ecosystem. It can be divided into gross primary productivity, that is called GPP, and net primary productivity, that is called NPP. Gross primary productivity of ecosystem is the rate of production of organic matter during the process. A considerable amount of GPP is utilized by the plants in the respiration process. Gross primary productivity minus respiration losses is the net primary productivity, that is NPP. GPP is equal to R is equal to NPP, that is net primary productivity. It is the available biomass for the consumption to the heterotrophs. Secondary productivity is defined as the rate of formation of new organic matter by consumer. Primary productivity depends on the plants, species inhabiting a particular area. It is also depend on a variety of environmental factors, availability of nutrients, and capacity of the plants. Therefore, it varies in the different types of ecosystem. The annual net primary productivity of the whole biosphere is approximately 170 billion tons, that is dry weight of organic matter of this. Despite occupying about the 70% of the surface, the productivity of the ocean are only 55 billion tons. Rest of course is on totally land. Now we're going to discuss next point, that is decomposition. You may have heard of an earthworm being referred to as the farmer's friend. This is so because they help in the breakdown of the complex organic matter as well as in loosening of the soil. Similar decomposers break down complex organic matter and into inorganic substance like carbon dioxide, water, and nutrients, and the process is called decomposition. Dead plants remain such as leaves, bark, flowers, and dead remain of the animal, including fecal matter constitute, which is the raw material of the decomposition. The important steps in the process of decomposition are fermentation, leaching, catabolism, humidification, and mineralization. By the process of leaching, water-soluble inorganic nutrition go down into the soil and get participated as unavailable salts. Bacteria and fungal enzymes degrade into a simpler inorganic substance. This process is called as catabolism. It is important to note that all above steps in decomposition operate similarly like this: humidification and the mineralization. occurring during the decomposition in the soil. Humidification leads to accumulation of a dark colored and atmosphere substance called humus that is highly resistant macrobiological action and the undergoes decomposition that an extreme slow rate being in nature. It serves as an savior of nutrition. The humus is further degraded by some microbes and release of inorganic nutrition occurring by the process as mineralization. Decomposition is largely an oxygen requiring process. The rate of decomposition is controlled by the chemical composition of climate and other factors. In a particular climatical condition, decomposition rate is slower if the rich in nitrogen of water, soluble substance like sugar, temperature and soil moisture, the most important climatic factors that regulate decomposition throughout their effect on the activities of the soil microbes. Warm and moist environment favors decomposition, whereas low temperature and anaerobic inhabitant decomposition, resulting in a build up of the organic material. Now we're going to discuss point number 3, that is energy flow. The chemical energy of food is the main source of energy required by all living organisms. This energy is transmitted to different tropical levels among the food chain. This energy flow is based on two different laws of the thermodynamic. First law of thermodynamic that state that energy can neither be created or not destroyed. It can only change from one form to another form. Second law of thermodynamic that state that as energy is transferred, more and more of it is wasted. The energy flow in the ecosystem is one of the major factors that support the survival of such a great number of organisms. For almost all organisms on earth, the primary source of energy is solar energy. It is assuming to find that we receive less than 50% of the sun's effective radiation on earth. When we say effective radiation, we mean the radiation which can be used by plants to carry out a photosynthesis. Most of the sun's radiation that falls on earth is usually reflected back into the space by the earth atmosphere. The effective radiation is termed as the photosynthetical active radiation, that is called PAR. Overall, we receive about 40 to 50% of the energy having photosynthetical active radiation, and only around 2 to 10% of it used by a plant for the process of the photosynthesis. The percentage of PAR support the entire world, as plants are the procedure in the ecosystem, and all the other organisms are either directly or indirectly dependent on them for their survival. The energy flow takes place via food chain and food webs. During the process of energy flow in the ecosystem, plants being the producer absorb sunlight with the help of the art of it transformed into chemical energy in the process of the photosynthesis. This energy is stored in various organic products in the plants and passed on into the primary consumer. The food chain, when the herbivores consume that are primary consumer, the plants as a food and convert chemical energy accumulated in plant product into kinetic energy. Degradation of energy will occur through its conversion into heat. The followed by the secondary consumer, when these herbivores are consumed by the carnivores of the first order, that is second consumer, further degradation will be occur. Finally, when the territory consume the carnivores, again energy will be degraded. The energy flow is unidirectionally in the nature. Based on the sources of the nutrition on food, organism occupy a specific place in the food chain that is known as the tropical level. Product producer belongs to the first tropic level, that are called herbivores, that are primary consumer, to the second and the carnivore consumer, secondary consumer, to the third consumer. For example, in the entire process, the tertiary consumer are included in forms of iron, right? Then secondary consumer in forms of bird, fish, wolves. Primary consumer in terms of all animals and grasshoppers. Then primary product, that is grass and tree, included into this. The important point to be note is that the amount of energy decreases at a successive tropic level. When any organism dies, it is converted into the dead biomass that serves as an energy source for decomposer. Organism at each tropic level depend on those at the lower tropic level of their energy demand. Each tropic level has a certain mass of living material at a particular time, called as the standing crop. That is the standing crop is measured as the mass of the living organism, that is also called biomass, or the number in a unit area. The biomass of the species is expressed into the terms of fresh or dry weight. Moreover, in a food chain, the energy flow follows the 10% law. According to this law, only 10% of the energy is transferred from one tropic level to the other. Rest is lost into the atmosphere. Thank you.